Bishop getting the first good morning. Good morning. Well, it's Thursday, right? Welcome in, Bishop on Air. People joining the live chat, including Greg Bishop. Getting that first good morning. Shout out to others. John, Friedman Brock, Chris, Roman, David, Tenebris, Till Valhalla, James, Craig, AS3SXP, Christopher, JL, Gregory, JM3, Chubby Guy Customs, Gavar, M96, Jack, Duckman, Captain Mike, Doobie Lou, Tattooed Squirrel, Keith, Brian, TC. Good morning to you guys. Hit that subscription, notification, like, comments, all of that stuff. I'm sure it helps out. We also got people joining via X, where you can follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air. All right, some stuff happening today. You've got the U.S. Supreme Court that is going to go into conference today. We could get an order list, including Illinois cases challenging gun bans. Whether the Supreme Court's going to take those up or not. So I guess we'll have to wait and see next week when they release that order list. But they go into conference today. They're also expected to release some opinions, and one of them could impact the Second Amendment and rules and such. So we may touch base on that a bit. All right, it's here with Bishop on Air. But we also got to just kind of do a post-mortem of sorts on the budget process and how we got to where we are now going to spend $53+ billion in the state of Illinois. That's just state dollars. That doesn't include the federal dollars. Total cost for taxpayers to run Illinois is going to be like $125 billion. So we'll get to that and hear what the governor had to say about the budget passing in the wee morning hours yesterday. So we'll revisit that conversation as well, with the governor holding a news event yesterday to herald the budget and other legislative priorities that he advanced as the State House passed more than 400 bills this spring. So stay tuned. All right, we also got people chiming in about other national news. The Trump verdict could happen. Who knows? Guess that'll definitely make some headlines, no question. All right, brief breather, and then we'll be back and do a budget post-mortem here with Bishop on Air.
The fact that they voted on it early in the morning was really a function of everybody wanted to go home. It had been a pretty long couple of weeks, I think, for the legislature.
That was Governor J.B. Pritzker responding to my question yesterday about people are sleep deprived at that time of the day. They don't make the best decisions. Why is it responsible to pass a $53 billion spending plan at 4:30 in the morning? We'll hear more of his response to that question. Back at it. It's Bishop on Air. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Greg Bishop. Full-time, I cover state government for the Center Square, Illinois. Go check out thecentersquare.com. But I do this on my own time just to kind of hang out and unpack even more of my understanding of what's going on at the State House, giving you kind of both sides and asking questions, and hopefully you are informed and enjoy the program on a daily basis. So like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, all right? Okay, so we had, of course, the early morning budget approved by the State House, and that was a $53 billion plan, increases taxes by $750 million. I've seen others report $1 billion. Either way, there are tax increases and getting extra tax revenue by way of, say, a tiered tax on sports betting companies. The more they make, the more tax they'll have to pay. You also have hundreds of millions of dollars in capping net operating losses for businesses. You have a couple of $100 million in extra tax revenue from capping the retailer discounts that retailers get for collecting and remitting sales taxes back to the state and local governments. You've also got a variety of other tax changes, all in total $750 million, if not more. But you also have in the budget increased spending for non-citizen migrants. Again, the reporting ranges from just what is for non-citizen health care, which is $600+ million, to the 180, I think, 7 or is it $182 million that the governor put into the budget for direct services to non-citizen migrants. And that could be housing, food, and even legal assistance in getting certain types of permits or helping with their asylum process. So you also got to include the $100 or so million for welcoming centers. And when you start adding all of that up, then it gets over $900 million in pay for non-citizen migrants from Illinois taxpayer funds. So all of that also, I mean, it funds roads, it funds pensions, it funds schools. The K through 12 and higher education is going to get about a quarter of the budget. The $53 billion. Then you've got pensions, which is going to be $10+ billion. And you can see where a lot of the funds are ultimately going. But the budget, last minute, it was the final thing they ultimately enacted with the legislation they passed. It hasn't been enacted. I don't think the governor signed it yet. But you've got the plan, including the budget, the line item, the budget implementation bill, which carves out a whole bunch of different things and moves funds around. So there's fund sweeps in there. One Republican indicated that there's about $1 billion in fund sweeps. And a question I wasn't able to get to the governor, but you got to ask, if there wasn't these tax increases and these fund sweeps, how's the budget balance? Do you need those things? And what do you do moving forward next year? Are you going to have to increase taxes elsewhere or do more fund sweeps? These are obviously questions that we'll see how they play out. But regardless, you've got the governor holding a news event yesterday talking about the budget and other legislative priorities. But I had to ask about the process.
People make the best decisions when they're sleep deprived. Why is it responsible to pass a budget at 4:45?
Well, the budget came out about a week ago, so people have had almost a week to look at, every aspect of it. Thursday, but whatever. I mean, there are days and days. People who like to say, oh, it came to my desk an hour before we had to vote on it. That's not true. That didn't happen this year. The fact that they voted on it early in the morning was really a function of everybody wanted to go home. It had been a pretty long couple of weeks, I think, for the legislature.
So everybody wanted to go home was the reason why, the governor says. The vote came at 4:30 in the morning. But if you go back and review the tape of the votes on one of the measures in that package, it took them 3 times. Took Democrats 3 times to get enough votes. And again, this is at like 3:30 in the morning. They took a vote, didn't have enough Democrats in support of it on the House floor. So they tried again a second time, and they didn't have enough votes on the House floor. And then they tried it a third time where they were able to get a few more votes onto the House floor, again at 4:30 in the morning. And that sparked the House Republican floor leader, Patrick Windhorst from Metropolis, to give this impassioned address.
I think it's clear to everybody what's going on here. It takes the super majority. How many times to get this, right in your mind? You pass these rules. These are your rules. I think you're wrong with the motion to reconsider. That's not the appropriate process. Rule 72 is clear about what's to occur with concurrences. It says you get 2 votes on a concurrence. Both of those failed. I think it should be clear to everyone in this state what this supermajority is willing to do to ram a tax increase down the throats of the citizens of Illinois at 4:30 in the morning. 3 votes. 3 votes. Request a verification.
So, again, the process, long, arduous in the early morning hours, looking at some of the tape throughout the early morning hours, including late evening committees just before the turn of midnight. And you could see it in legislators' faces, yawning a whole bunch, rubbing their eyes, trying to stay awake. You could just see it all throughout. The House floor even at 3:30, 4:30, and so on. But again, back to the question I asked the governor. You know, people at early morning hours can be sleep deprived and not make the best decisions. How is it responsible to pass a budget in the early morning hours?
People make the best decisions when they're sleep deprived. Why is it responsible to pass a budget at 4:45?
Well, the budget came out about a week ago, so people have had almost a week to look at, every aspect of it. Thursday, but whatever. I mean, there are days and days, people who like to say, oh, it came to my desk an hour before we had to vote on it. That's not true. That didn't happen this year. The fact that they voted on it early in the morning was really a function of everybody wanted to go home. It had been a pretty long couple of weeks, I think, for the legislature.
And absolutely a long couple of weeks, and even for media covering it. I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I put in at least 13, 14 hours each day, and even into Tuesday into Wednesday. It was just long days, and definitely a lot of red eyes amongst those covering this. But the process was that way because there were some Democrats that weren't going to vote for it, especially the tax increase package. So they didn't have the votes on the floor. The governor was asked about that as well, about the process and what led to that.
I don't know. I mean, I watched it, I hate to say, like many of you at 4 in the morning, but I can't tell you what the process was that led to that.
Tell me why 7 Democrats didn't vote for the budget.
7 Democrats didn't vote for the
Well,
budget.
good news, there are 78 Democrats. You're welcome. And in fact, it was a great budget. And the fact that there are some who disagreed on aspects of the budget is just a function of what Will Rogers once said, which is, I don't belong to an organized party, I'm a Democrat.
So some of the things the budget includes in the budget implementation bill and the tax revenue increase includes a bunch of different tax credits. Tax credits for the movie industry, tax credits for live theater production, tax credits for gifting to endowments, tax credits for endowments that help pay their employees' student loans, tax credits for this, tax credits for that. A lot of different tax credits in this package, but State Representative Dan Calkins, he noted that there's a major tax credit that was not included, and that was the Invest in Kids school choice scholarship tax credits.
But we are not doing the one thing that we should be doing, and that's ensuring that our children who are in underperforming schools have an opportunity to get a scholarship to a school that will better prepare them for the future. We have missed an opportunity again. This bill is patently flawed, and I would hope that we would reject this bill and come back in the fall and try to figure out how we can do the right thing.
So, again, no Invest in Kids school choice scholarship. And that was a 2017 measure under former Governor Bruce Rauner that really what it did was it allowed for private donors to give to school granting organizations, and in their gift, they would get a 75% Illinois income tax credit. And there are tens of thousands of families that met certain income thresholds to be able to tap into the Invest in Kids school choice scholarship program and get their kids out of underperforming schools into a private school of the family's choice. Helped out tens of thousands of families, but the program expired at the end of last year, mainly because teachers' unions were adamantly opposed to it and said that it should be allowed to sunset. And the legislature did not take it up last year, and there were rumblings that they could bring it up during fall veto session. Last year, they didn't. Then the end of the year comes up, and the program expires, and here we are at the end, and now now the expiration of the spring session, and the Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program was not brought up. The governor was asked about that yesterday as well.
I know that there are people who'd like to bring it back, and I had meetings with many of them, heard them out. This is something the legislature decided to do, and I think there's a real need to make sure that we're focusing on funding public schools properly. And very importantly, and I talked about this, and maybe this is too much detail for you, if you're going to have a tax credit like that, we ought to let the federal government cover much of the cost of it, which we weren't doing. This was all done, as you know, in the kind of dark of night, I guess is the way to say it, from 2017 when this program was created. And it was created in a simplistic fashion, in a way that cost Illinois taxpayers more than it should have. So if you were going to re-up it, it needed to be changed. And anyway, they decided not to, and the change never took place either.
So the Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program, could it come back up in the fall? I guess we'll see, but as of right now, that has not advanced. A couple of things I want to address in the live chat this morning. People are noting that the legislature gave themselves a pay increase. And I do want to address that. Obviously, yeah, there is something baked into the annual spending plan of I believe it's a COLA, cost of living increase. That legislature automatically gives themselves baked into the budget every year. Now, they could have gone back in there and changed that aspect of it, but it's always a point of contention every year. Sometimes it makes headlines, other times it doesn't. But I think the headline here was, in the dead of night, they passed the most expensive state budget in state history, $53+ billion of spending. And then when you include the federal tax money that comes in, it's even more. It's like 125 billion with a B dollars. So there you go. How the budget comes together, right? We're watching the sausage made. And by the way, the legislature passed 425 bills, I believe. 465 measures they passed this spring. And we'll see and unpack all the stuff they did, from the medical debt relief that they approved to sweeping election law changes to a bonding authority, increasing spending even more and putting the state into debt. That's what bonds are. They put out debt and they say, hey, buy this debt, we'll pay it back at interest. So that's all of the taxpayer cost as well. So tons more to track, especially as the legislature queues up 465 measures to send to the governor's desk. It's going to be a long summer. All right, so we'll be covering all of that and more. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join me each and every weekday morning with Bishop on Air. Let's get some of the latest litigation news about challenges against Illinois' gun ban, and also find out what they didn't approve in the space of the Second Amendment when it comes to Karina's bill. They had a measure that would allow for governments to get a warrant to, take firearms from those who face domestic orders of protection. Welcome back to Bishop on Air. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. Plenty to tackle when it comes to the trajectory of gun legislation and litigation. If you are following along, you'll know that the U.S. Supreme Court, they have some things coming up, including a conference today. All right, so they're conferencing, and it's important for those following the challenges against Illinois' gun ban, because several of the challenges are in front of the U.S. Supreme Court in conference, and they're going to decide whether or not to take those cases. So we reported, what was it, a month and a half ago or so, the Supreme Courts took several Illinois cases and a case from Maryland that were being requested for cert to review the cases, and they put them into conference. and behind closed doors, the U.S. Supreme Court considering what is to ultimately be taken up by the U.S. Supreme Court for oral arguments or what they're going to deny. So we had conference on the 9th. We did not find out on the 13th if they were going to take the case. We had conference on the 16th. We did not find out on the 20th. Actually, I think the 16th is when they actually took the gun ban cases into conference. The 23rd, we did not get any note that they were going to take the case on the 28th when they released the order list. So we have another day today where they're going to go into conference, and the next order list will be published at June 3rd at 9:30 in the morning. So we'll be watching to see what happens, and that'll be 8:30 our time. So we'll watch to see what happens with the Illinois gun ban challenges and whether or not the Supreme Court's going to take the cases on a preliminary basis or whether they're going to reject the cases on a preliminary basis. But we also have the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court. I checked the docket. There wasn't much added to it, but ultimately that case challenging the state's gun ban in front of federal judge Stephen McGlynn, it's still proceeding. So they had a status conference not too long ago. They're still in the process of getting their experts all together and laying out depositions, and then we'll see some kind of bench trial. And this is all on the merits. So what the U.S. Supreme Court has is asking the court to take the challenges on a preliminary basis. Because if you recall, the Southern District and the Northern District had separate cases. They went separate ways with their decision to ultimately say, the appeals court said the state had a likelihood of succeeding on the merits after the Southern District said that the plaintiffs had a likelihood of succeeding on the merits and put an injunction in effect, but the appeals court reversed that. So all of that was on a preliminary basis. What's going on now in the Southern District is on the merits, while you've got the possibility the U.S. Supreme Court's going to take up that case. So interesting to see that. And also today, you've got opinions that are going to be released by the U.S. Supreme Court. And Freedom Steele on X says he's up early. Todd Vandermeide, he's on SCOTUS watch, and the two Chevron cases have not dropped yet. Opinions are at 9 o'clock our time, so in less than an hour here as we go live to tape. So Todd Vandermeide says he's wondering if they drop those cases first, then Cargill as a trifecta, since Cargill could be a result of killing off Chevron. And this deals with, administrative rules and whether or not, like, for instance, the ATF can do administrative rules to write law. And we've kind of been tracking that, at least here in Illinois, when it comes to the gun ban, right? And all of the litigation and the rulemaking and how they go about defining things. So, can the ATF say that a lower unfinished receiver is a firearm? It seems to be what the crux of those cases are. But a lot of stuff in the U.S. Supreme Court to watch. We'll definitely be tracking that for you. But something else, just to go back to the Illinois General Assembly. They passed this spring session 207 measures out of the House. The Senate approved 258 measures out of both chambers. That brings the total to 465 bills they passed this spring at the Illinois State House. Last year, to compare, they passed 665 measures last year. But this year, they only passed 465. They filed 5,000 to 7,000 pieces of legislation. So 465 bills they approved. One they did not approve, a measure called Karina's Bill that would allow for a court to give a warrant to local police to go after firearms and confiscate those firearms from individuals who face domestic orders of protection. And those are not guilty verdicts. Those are merely orders to say, hey, somebody's made a complaint against you. It's a domestic issue, and we're going to go ahead and have an order of protection against you. And then we'll have some cases to determine whether or not this is legit and we should move forward. Regardless, it triggers this instant thing of in current state law that you have to give your firearms to somebody who's able to accept those firearms, who's a FOID card holder, for instance, a firearm owner ID card holder. So it does not have to be a police officer. However, Karina's bill would require a police officer to get a warrant to then go and confiscate firearms from somebody who faces an order of protection red flag law debate aside, this measure would ultimately lead to that level of gun confiscation. But Karina's bill did not advance, and the gun control group, GPAC, Gun Violence Prevention PAC, they released the following statement from their president here in Illinois. They said, after a holiday weekend marked by over 40 shootings, including one that tragically killed 5-year-old Rain War, the General Assembly concluded its spring session without acting on any gun safety measures. This is unacceptable, GPAC said. Although shootings and gun homicide rates have decreased, there are still too many incidents of violence that are tearing apart families and communities. We have more work to do. I join with over 200 organizations in the Illinois Gun Violence Prevention Coalition in expressing our disappointment that lawmakers did not pass Karina's bill to remove firearms from known abusers once an order of protection has been filed. Our laws should work to protect survivors and their safety, not the rights of their abusers. The fight to end gun violence will continue this fall, and we will consider the inaction in upcoming general and election endorsements. We must protect survivors of domestic violence, curb illegal gun trafficking of lost and stolen guns, and strengthen our laws to ensure safe storage of weapons in Illinois. So obviously GPAC making it known that they're going to go after the Democrats that they supported for not advancing more gun control measures, like requiring warrants to go get guns from what they say are known abusers. But if you want to get into the debate of red flag laws, I mean, all of that's on preliminary bases. Nobody's been, I'm sure there might be some people in that grouping who have orders of protection against them that are convicted of certain crimes. But typically on a case-by-case basis, orders of protection tend to be kind of like the first action that's taken, and it's not necessarily, a admission of guilt or anything. It's just like what do they call that? Based off of exigent circumstances, things that are happening right now that they have to move quickly on. But regardless, that didn't pass. But it's also clear that GPAC, at least in Illinois, is looking at other things like curbing illegal gun trafficking and lost and stolen guns, and strengthening laws to ensure safe storage of weapons in Illinois. So regardless, none of that happened this spring session. So just for those of you who were watching some of those measures and whether or not they were going to, advance those bills, well, we got it all summer where they're not going to be acting on that stuff. So I just wanted to get that out to you as well. All right, it's Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Greatly appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning. And we'll see you sooner than later, all right? Check out the live show weekday mornings and then also the clips afterwards. It's right here with Bishop on Air. Appreciate you guys. That's all I got for you. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and I'm going to do something here just off the cuff. Love to see the comments on the kinds of things you'd like to see me go out there and report on this summer. I could take some time during the weekends and maybe go to a firing range, or maybe several firing ranges. If you know those locations and places that would be willing to be featured, to talk about their range, to talk about the ongoing issues around the Second Amendment here in Illinois, reach out to me. Comments below or email bishoponair@gmail.com, bishoponair@gmail.com. I had one listener suggest doing like a meet and greet type of thing where we could do kind of like an off-record Q&A. So maybe we can arrange something like that. But I would love to get an indication of what you guys would like to see. Of course, we've got an election year coming up. You've got the Republican National Convention. You've got the Democratic National Convention. And a whole host of other things, but surely I can find some time to get out there and see what's going on across the state when it comes to some of the firing ranges and the Second Amendment groups out there. So email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. Shoot me a message either here on the chat live, or we'll see what we can make happen, and I'll start trying to arrange some of that so we can, share what's going on across the state. Or any other issues right? I've got people asking me about, for instance, delving deeper into Illinois' child welfare situation, which is always a tough story to track because it just tears at your heartstrings. But that as well is something that I could possibly delve into. So any other suggestions you guys have, feel free to send them my way. Just email bishoponair@gmail.com. Keith, I do plan on reaching out to Todd and seeing if I can go and check out their gun club, because I know that he's put a ton of work into it, he and others up there. So maybe we have to make that happen. Looks like others are suggesting some places in Champaign. Somebody wants some Illinois Department of Transportation news. Okay. I have not grilled any cicadas, Festus. That's funny. All right. Well, I got to get out of here. Again, keep those comments coming and email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. You guys have a great day, all right? Be safe out there.
So